Hi guys, and welcome to my channel. In this video, you are going to learn about polymorphism in object-oriented programming and how to use it in practice. This video is part of a series where I teach you about practical object-oriented programming. And in this video, we will continue building the application that you can see here and that we started building in one of the previous videos. So I will link the entire OOP playlist here and also in the description, so make sure to watch it. Now I will explain the application that we currently have and the code that we have written, and then we are going to learn what is polymorphism and how we can use that knowledge in order to add additional functionalities to our application and how we can apply that knowledge in practice. Hey there! If your goal is to learn programming and start a successful career, build interesting and useful applications, and if you enjoy learning from my YouTube videos, then you should definitely enroll in my practical programming course. I will take you from beginner to expert in just a few months, and I will give you all of the support and help that you need to achieve your goals. In the course, you will work on realistic projects, you will get access to a large community of successful developers, and everything that you need to learn will be on one place. You just need to follow the plan that I have created for you. And those of you who finish the course successfully will get a special certificate that is going to open a lot of job opportunities for you. In the description, you can find a coupon code to save some money. And if you're not sure if this course is for you or not, we have 7-day money-back guarantee, which means that if you don't like it for any reason, you will get all of your money back. No questions asked. So now, instead of coming up with excuses, use this opportunity to finally learn programming and transform your life, because you really have nothing to lose and a lot to gain. So let's start by explaining the application that we have here. And if you also want to download the same code that I have and continue working with me on this application, I will leave a link in the description to my GitHub repository, so there you can download this entire project that I have here. This application is used in order to manage bank accounts, and currently we have the following functionalities. We can create new account and add it to this grid, or we can deposit or withdraw money from one of these existing bank accounts. Currently, we have two different types of bank accounts in our application. This here is regular normal bank account that has owner, account number, and balance. And then this here is savings bank account, which also has owner, account number, and balance, plus one additional property, and that is interest rate. In this case, interest rate is 2%. Currently, we can deposit and withdraw money from both of these accounts. For example, if I select this regular bank account and I say 100 and click on withdraw, that amount will be subtracted from my balance, and we will get the same behavior for our savings account. So if I select savings account and I enter 100 and click on withdraw, that amount will also be subtracted from the savings account. So when we are withdrawing money from both of these, we will get the same behavior, and that is okay. Additionally, we also have deposit functionality. So currently, if I select this normal regular bank account and I enter, for example, 100 for the amount, and I click on deposit, $100 will be deposited to my balance. And then also, if I select this savings account and I enter 100 and click on deposit, again, $100 will be deposited to my balance. But this is not the behavior that I want. What I want instead is, in case of a savings bank account, if I'm trying to deposit $100, then I shouldn't get just $100. I should get $100 plus the interest. So if the interest rate is 2% and I'm trying to deposit $100, then I should get $100 plus 2. If I'm trying to deposit $1,000, then I should get $1,000 plus $20 of interest, and so on. So that is the behavior that I want. So basically, I want to have different behavior for regular normal bank account and different behavior for savings bank account, even though I am invoking the same functionality. And this is called polymorphism. So polymorphism as a word comes from Greek language, and it means multiple forms. So it is the ability of an organism to have multiple different forms or multiple different behaviors depending on the situation. This concept, this idea of polymorphism exists everywhere in nature. It exists in biology, in physics, chemistry, medicine, and also in programming. Now, before we start writing any code and implementing polymorphism, let's try to understand the situation that we currently have in code and what is the relationship between these two different types of bank accounts. So currently, if I open my Solution Explorer, we have a class called bank account, and that class has three properties. It has owner, account number, and balance. And then here is the constructor. So it receives one parameter, that is owner's name, and we use that in order to initialize the owner property of this class. And then we generate new GUID for the account number and we set balance to be 0. We already learned about constructors in a separate video, which I will link here and also in the description. So make sure to watch that video. So this here is the constructor. And then we have two methods. We have deposit and also we have withdraw. So deposit method is used in order to deposit money to the account. So we receive amount that the user wants to deposit, and then we check if that amount is less than 0. If it is, we return this error message because you cannot deposit, for example, -$2 or -$5. That does not make sense. So we check that, we return error message. And then we also check if the amount is greater than 20,000 because most banks will not allow you to deposit huge amounts of money because of different anti-money laundering laws. So in case that the user is trying to deposit a lot of money, again, we will return error message. So only after we complete all of these checks, we can deposit that money and add it to our balance. And in that case, we are going to return this success message. So that is how deposit method works. And then withdraw method works similarly. So again, we perform different checks in order to make sure that the user is not trying to withdraw less than 0 or more money than he has on his balance. So once we complete all of these checks, then we can withdraw money and subtract it from our balance, and then we return this success message. So that is how our bank account class looks like. And then we also have another class called savings account. And that class looks very simple and very small. So savings account class is inheriting everything from bank account, which means that it will have absolutely the same properties and the same behaviors that bank account has, plus it will have something that is specific to savings account, and that is interest rate. So the way inheritance works is that savings account is called child class or derived class, and then bank account is called parent class or base class. Now, child class is going to inherit everything from the parent class, which means that it will have all of the properties and all of the behaviors that parent has, plus it can have some extra. So it can have some properties or behaviors of its own. And in this case, that is this property here. So savings account has one additional property, and that is interest rate. But all of the properties that we already have inside the parent and all of the behaviors, it has those too. So this means that savings account deep down is also a bank account because it has all of the properties, all of the behaviors, the same as bank account, plus something extra. So depending on a situation, you can either treat it as a regular bank account or as a savings account, which is a special type of bank account. And that is the reason why we don't have to implement deposit and withdraw methods for our savings account, because it is inheriting those from its parent. And that is also the reason why the behavior is absolutely the same. So it has inherited the same behavior of withdrawing and depositing that its parent class has. Now, inheritance is super useful because it allows us to inherit all of the properties and all of the behaviors between classes without having to copy and paste the code. And also it allows us to create this hierarchy between classes. But the problem begins when we want to have different behavior in child class for a method that is already implemented and that is inherited from the parent class. And in this case, that is deposit method. So basically what we want to do is we want to have different behavior of child and parent when we try to deposit money. And that is where we use polymorphism. So we can basically override a method that already exists in the parent class, and we can provide different implementation of that method in the child class. So it's the same as in real life. You know how kids always want to have their independence, they want to make their own decisions? Well, it's the same in programming. What child class can do is it can override a method that exists inside the parent class, and it can provide its own behavior, its own implementation of that method. In our case, that means that savings account can have its own behavior for depositing money, and then bank account can have its own behavior. So now let's see how we can achieve that. There are three things that we need to do, so let's go step by step. So first, the method that we want to override is deposit method from our bank account class. So let's open bank account class and let's find deposit method. I'm going to copy it and I will go to savings account and I will paste it here. So now let's see what are the changes that we want to make. So what is that different behavior that we want to have inside this child class when we are depositing money? So these checks that we have in the beginning of our deposit method, they can stay, they are okay for savings account as well. And then this part here, balance plus equals to amount. This part is okay for bank account, so for the parent class. But for the child class, for savings account, what we also need to add here is amount and also interest amount. So something like this. So when we are depositing money for savings account, we are adding amount and also interest to our balance. So now we need to calculate this interest amount. So let's see how we are going to do that. So let's create a decimal variable here. I will call it interest amount. And the formula to calculate this interest amount is the following. So interest rate divided by 100 and then multiplied by the amount that we are trying to deposit. So this here is going to give us the interest amount. So to explain this on an example, let's open a calculator. So in case that we are trying to deposit $100 and interest rate is 2%, let's see what is going to be the interest amount. So 2% divided by 100, that is going to be 0.02, and then we multiply that by the amount that we are trying to deposit, so that is $100. So in that case, the interest amount is going to be $2. So in that case, we are depositing amount, which is 100, and interest amount, which is 2. So in total, we should add $102 to our balance. So that is how this formula here works, and that is the change that we wanted to implement inside deposit method of our child class. That is the first step. The second step is inside our child class, we need to say that we actually want to override this method because it already exists inside our parent. So you simply say here, public override, like this. That is the second step. And then the third step is that the parent actually needs to allow for this to happen. So I will go to the bank account class, and here for this deposit method, what I need to do is I need to say that this method is virtual. So here, when I say virtual, that means that in case that child provides its own version for this method, then use that version. But in case that it doesn't, then please use this version here. So once more, inside the parent, we need to make that method to be virtual, which means that the child can override it and provide its own version that will be used. But also, in case that the child does not override it and does not create its own version, then this version here will be used as a fallback. So this method here is going to be virtual inside the parent, and then inside the child, we have that method, but we need to specify this override keyword. And here in the implementation, we can provide the version that we want to use inside the child class. So those are the steps that we need in order to implement polymorphism. And then there is one more extra step, but it doesn't have anything to do with polymorphism. Instead, it has to do with encapsulation that we have implemented in one of the previous videos. So I will link that video here and also in the description. Make sure to watch it if you already didn't. And that is related to this error that we have here. So why do we have this red squiggly under our balance property? Well, the reason is the following. This balance property is a property that belongs to our parent class. And if I open the parent class, you will notice that balance property has a private setter, which means that its value can be set or changed only inside this class here. So now when we are trying to change it inside the child class, that is the problem, and that is why we are getting an error. Now, one way to fix this problem is to simply remove this private keyword. And if I go to my savings account, this error here should disappear. Okay, so that is one way to fix it, but that is not correct way to fix it, because what we have done now is we have completely destroyed our encapsulation. And now this balance property can be accessed anywhere. So inside this class, inside the child class, and inside any other class, because now by default it is public. So that is not the solution. And what is the solution instead is, instead of using private access modifier, what you can do is you can use protected. And what protected means is that this property here, you can set its value inside this class and then inside its derived classes. But you cannot do it anywhere else. So only inside this class and inside its children. So if I go to savings account, as you can see, our error has disappeared again, and we have not broken our encapsulation, but we have fixed the problem that we had here. So this is an interesting tip that has nothing to do with polymorphism, but it is still very useful to know, and it will probably be handy for you in some situation in the future, so I wanted to share it. So now that we have implemented polymorphism, let's start our application and let's test how this works. So let's add a bank account, let's say Saldina, and I will create this bank account. This is going to be a normal regular bank account without interest rate. And then let's also say Elon, but this time I will add interest rate, let's say 2%, and create account. Okay, so now let's test our deposit functionality. So if I try to deposit money to this normal regular bank account, let's say $100, and I click on deposit, as you can see, $100 was added to the balance. Now let's see if we will get different behavior for this savings account. So select savings account, and then let's also add $100, and let's click on deposit. And as you can see, to the balance was added the amount and also the interest amount. So even though we added the same money to both of these accounts, here we still have 100, and then in our savings account we have 102. So this means that our deposit functionality works differently for different types of bank accounts. And one more thing that is very important for you to see in order for all of this to click together is what actually happens when we click on this deposit button. So now let's see that. Let's go to the design of our form and let's double click on this button. Okay, so here is our deposit button click event handler. So what we are doing here is we first make sure that we have selected just one row in our bank accounts grid. And then from our bank accounts grid, we take from the list of all of the selected rows, the one with the index of 0, that is the first one and the only one that we have selected. And from it, we take the actual item and we convert it into bank account. So in this variable here, we will have the bank account that we have selected in our grid. And this here can be a regular normal bank account, or it can be savings account. Now, what is very important and interesting here is that we can use this bank account class in order to store an object of both bank account and also savings account. So because savings account is inheriting from bank account, that means that deep down in the background, it is also bank account itself. And thanks to the polymorphism, what we can do is we can use an object of the base class in order to store the base class itself or any of the child classes. And in the runtime, once we have the actual bank account or savings account, our compiler will determine which deposit method to invoke depending on the type of bank account. So in our code, we treat it as a bank account, a normal regular bank account. But once we have the actual data and the actual account, our compiler will determine if it is savings account, invoke this deposit method, and if it is regular normal bank account, then invoke the base deposit method. And that is the magic of polymorphism. So this here reflects the ability of an object to have different behaviors in different situations. And that means that we can write our code like this. So only once using the base class, but that object can have the behavior of any one of the child classes. So in case that you had multiple child classes that are inheriting from bank account, for example, savings account, checkings account, brokerage account, custodial account, credit account maybe, and so on. So if all of those are children of the bank account and all of them have different implementations for, let's say, deposit method, then you can write your code just once. And once you start your application and once you get the actual data, then it will be determined which implementation to invoke and which behavior that object is going to have. So to finish explaining this method, once we have our selected bank account, whether it is bank account itself or savings account, then we can take that object and invoke its deposit method and pass the amount that we want to deposit. And in the background, our computer, our compiler is going to invoke the appropriate deposit method depending on what kind of bank account is inside this object here. And then once we have deposited the money, here we are going to store the message that was returned, whether it is success message or error message. And then we are going to refresh our grid. We will clear our amount numerical field. We will set its value to 0. And then we will show the message to our user so that he knows if some error happened or if deposit was completed successfully. Hey there! If your goal is to learn programming and start a successful career, build interesting and useful applications, and if you enjoy learning from my YouTube videos, then you should definitely enroll in my practical programming course. I will take you from beginner to expert in just a few months, and I will give you all of the support and help that you need to achieve your goals. In the course, you will work on realistic projects, you will get access to a large community of successful developers, and everything that you need to learn will be on one place. You just need to follow the plan that I have created for you. And those of you who finish the course successfully will get a special certificate that is going to open a lot of job opportunities for you. In the description, you can find a coupon code to save some money. And if you're not sure if this course is for you or not, We have 7-day money-back guarantee, which means that if you don't like it for any reason, you will get all of your money back. No questions asked. So now, instead of coming up with excuses, use this opportunity to finally learn programming and transform your life, because you really have nothing to lose and a lot to gain. So I hope that this video helped you to understand what is polymorphism and how to use it in practice. If you have any questions related to this topic or any questions about my practical programming course, let me know down in the comment section and I will reply to your questions. Also, if you enjoyed this video, if you find it useful, please give it a big thumbs up so that I know to create more videos like this one in the future. So thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!